Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 197, written by CatchingStarLight. She knew what she saw, and then it was gone. By far the creepiest thing I've ever experienced. Earlier in the week, I, female 17, was driving to my significant other's house. I make this drive a lot, and nothing weird has ever happened. I see up ahead on the road, there are two police cars in the middle of the road with a stopped car with their hazards on, and the police and the driver were all standing outside the car talking. There were about 5 cars ahead of me, and we did as we should and got over to give them some room. I lost sight of them for a fraction of a second as we got over, and when they should have come in sight again, they were just gone. No police cars, no stopped cars, no one on the road. There weren't even any cars near that side of the road. It just made no sense, and I have no logical explanation. I know it wasn't just me, because the 5 other cars pulled to the side too, and all looked equally as confused. I don't know, man. Creepy. Case file number 198, written by NG Benji 2000. How did that dude inhabit 2 places at once? This was about 3 years ago. But me and my mate, both of us 18 at the time, were just leaving the common room in school to go to a lesson. On the way out of the common room, we walked past this lad in the year below who went to my primary school and was going into the common room as we were leaving. I mentioned the primary school part because this is a person I couldn't have mistaken for someone else due to me knowing who he was. I wasn't friends with him, but I've known who he is for at least 10 years prior to this. Now, my school wasn't one big building. It had a walkway separating different ends of the school, and it was about a minimum 5-minute walk from one end to the other, depending on how fast you go. We get to the other end and go inside, just as a few classes are finishing up and students are leaving. We're walking past a lesson that had just finished, and we see the same guy who had walked past us into the common room over 5 minutes before, leaving this classroom as if he had been in a lesson the whole time. Me and my mate both immediately clocked this and said, "What the hell?" But we still can't explain it to this day. He didn't turn around after we saw him go into the common room and then overtake us on the walkway, which we would have noticed, to go sit in a classroom for a minute before the lesson ended. Also, the common room is a place you go to on your breaks or free periods, so for him to be walking into the common room means he was already coming from a lesson which had finished, so he wouldn't turn around to go back to it. If you're enjoying this video, consider giving it a like. Now on to the next story. Case file number 199, written by Highway Unicorn 21, a vision of a distinctive woman. Yesterday, I was on the bus listening to music in my headphones, just looking around. I saw this woman sitting 3 rows ahead of me, facing me, and I remember thinking she looked like one actress from my country, but then realizing it was not her, just similar features and hairstyle. She was wearing a green dress with some flowers. After this, I just continued looking through the window, and after 2 or 3 stops, I see the exact same woman outside, on the bus stop. She gets on the bus and sits at the exact same spot she was before. She's wearing the same dress, and once again, I notice she looks like that actress, and I'm like, didn't I just see her on the bus a couple of minutes ago? So yeah, it was kinda weird, but after reading so many posts on here, it almost seemed like a normal thing to happen. I was excited to finally have something to post on the sub. Bonus file, written by nottrashypancakes. This mall is abnormal and haunted in so many ways. So I live in the country, northern Texas, and go to this basically abandoned mall, except for 3 stores still open. One of the stores still open is an indoor playground for toddlers and kids. Well, you never would suspect anything haunting a playground, right? I wouldn't either, but this really happened to me a few days ago. I brought my toddler to play in this indoor playground. The kind that has slides, jump houses, arcade games, that kind of place. We were the only ones in the store. We were going through this maze and going up this slide, when all of a sudden, I heard 2 ladies yelling loudly on the slide. It sounded like a really loud argument, so loud that I took my babies out of the slide. I then investigated the area and found that absolutely no one was around at all. Then I went down the slide and there was a rattling noise right in the back of me as I went down. It felt like it was following me, and I would stop in the middle of the slide to investigate, and it would continue to rattle like it had a consciousness. I then heard another voice right behind me, loud. I turned around and no one was there. I didn't say any of this to my daughters, but then my eldest, 3 years old, had started freaking out and said she felt like something was following her and said she thinks something is there and it's mad. I wanted to make sure it wasn't just my imagination, so I put my fears to the side and really investigated the slides. I really tried to confront whatever was there. I don't know what is there, but from my and my daughter's experience, it was paranormal. Sometime this week, I will bring my husband there and have him see for himself. He is super skeptical and doesn't believe in this stuff, so I'll give an update soon. Also, if anyone else is interested in investigating, let me know. I want to prove that I'm not crazy and that there is really something there. Bonus viewer submission. Written by said Shadowhawk. All about a relic and wielding power. I have a lot of incredible stories and am a practitioner of sorcery, as crazy as it sounds. I've always explained my experiences as a result of being broken via child abuse, and that somehow created the perfect circumstances for magic to occur. However, as much as it seems unlikely, I'm science-minded and always test things using the scientific method. This story is one experience I've yet to find a meaning to, which clearly has meaning somewhere. At some point in high school, around sophomore year, I was in my angsty goth phase. I still am, and wanted nothing to do with anything that didn't align with that aesthetic. My dad used to host an auction at our family reunions for funding, and would often travel to New York to get unique items for the family to auction over. We had hit a rough patch and he was trying to make up for it when he came home from a trip by allowing me to first pick out the jewelry he had purchased. I went and had a look and was mostly disinterested as it was all gaudy and not my style. He sent me back and I remember selecting a 2-pack chain to give to a boy I liked who was a fan, and a Surf's Up, the movie, bracelet. He sent me back down as my selection wasn't sufficient enough for him. I begrudgingly looked again and picked out a gaudy necklace that I still have, and it has grown on me. There were a lot of replica jewelry pieces. Just as I had seen every piece, I reached down and find a necklace that doesn't quite fit in. It's a necklace with a bunch of small skull heads as beads and a larger wooden skull, hand-carved, as the amulet. Obviously, it was right up my alley. It had a strange carving on the back that resembled an upside-down wishbone and had a distinct smoky sweet smell. I wore it every single day. As I wore it, strange things would happen. It seemed as if anything negative I would say happened. It happened enough to be past coincidence, and other peers took notice. There are a lot of stories, but to save time, I'll tell the most crucial one. I was on the bus and a bunch of kids were calling me a witch. One of my friends who was younger was an atheist who defended me against the mob of kids. He asked me to tell him something that would happen to him so I could get everyone off my back. I told him that he would get off the bus and trip down the steps and bust his leg. I was strategically specific. As the ride went on, we had forgotten our conversation, being fickle teens. His stop came up. He turned to say goodbye to me and turned to walk down the steps of the bus. He tripped. He fell. He busted his leg. As he bent down in pain, he looked back at me through the bus window. He pointed at me with terror in his eyes and screamed, "Witch!" It felt like everything was frozen, and I began to contemplate the dangers of this new power. Flash forward. It's summertime, and I'm with my dad and his Christian family at Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. A young cousin around 7 is with us. And as we walk by a case designated to ancient indigenous and African relics, he tugs at me and starts freaking out. I'm slightly annoyed, but I do oblige as he pulls me closer to the display. In the case at this museum is the very same necklace I was wearing around my neck. There it was being called an ancient healing necklace, but that's BS. I could not believe it. I felt like I would faint. Then I decided not to alert the adults or staff, as they may have assumed I had stolen it. It was exactly the same. 2 necklaces in the case showed the front and back of the necklace, which even bore the same wishbone-like sigil. I regret now not alerting staff, because imagine the publicity would have gotten. My dad never remembered purchasing the necklace. Do you think magic could be a gift of controlling glitches?